In this video, we're going to talk about ratios. So get your note card out and let's make a note card with your notes on it. I find that if you can make some note cards with some different math concepts on them, then when it comes to putting all of these concepts together, you have a study tool. So what are ratios? Ratios are very simple. Basically, they are just a comparison of two values. So go ahead and get your whatever you're going to use to take notes on. So I would recommend you take notes on something separate than you're going to write your problems on. Ratios are a comparison of two values. So you're writing this down. So, I mean, we can compare anything. Anything could be a ratio, like pens to erasers, okay? That could be a ratio. Whiteboards to note cards, or shirts to pants, or anything. You can just come up with anything. That could be a ratio. And basically, a ratio is a special kind of fraction, and it has kind of its own rules. So, we're just going to talk about the steps on how to solve the ratio. All right, so on your very next line of your note card, just write steps. Okay, and we're not going to skip any lines. We're just going to number and put our steps as we approach a problem. The first step is to read the problem. I know that sounds like a obvious no-brainer there, but you'd be surprised how many of us, myself included, glance at a problem, just pick out the numbers and try to work the problem without ever reading it. So read the problem. Because you're going to have, remember on the HiSET, you've got 55 questions, and they're not going to be labeled ratios and fractions and decimals and proportions. You're going to need to be able to read it and decide, what am I going to do here? So once you've read the problem and you've decided that it's going to be a ratio, the second step is to draw a fraction line. So I'm going to come over here to the side and just go, draw a fraction line, okay? So, for example, if this was your problem, if there are 3 girls and 6 boys in a class, what is the ratio of boys to girls, okay? So obviously it's a ratio problem. They've asked for ratio. So the first step is going to be, I'm going to draw my fraction line. I got to set myself up before I start putting numbers. We always want to just grab the numbers and go, but you got to stop and set yourself up. Number 3, after you draw the fraction line, it is imperative that you label your categories, okay? Because ratios are super easy, but you've got to have them in the correct order. So look at this one. It gives you 3 girls and 6 boys, but what are they asking you for the ratio of? They're asking you for the ratio of boys to girls. So on our fraction line, we need to label, I'm just going to put B for boys and G for girls. You can put the whole word or whatever you want to label. So we've got to label boys to girls. Actually, I'm going to come down here and just show you the sequence. So for step 2, we drew a fraction line. Step 3, we're going to label. Step 4, we are going to place the numbers. Now, they have to be in the right order. So now I've got B and G. So if you come over here, 3 is not going to match boys, is it? It's going to match girls. So where is 3 going to go? It's going to go on the bottom, even though it was listed first in the problem. And that's what they do a lot of times to kind of throw you off. So what goes on top is 6. Okay? Whoops, I'm doing it again. So I wanted to kind of draw it in sequence. All right, number 5. After you've got you've placed the numbers in the correct spot, then you want to reduce. And we're just going to reduce on the calculator, although certainly you can do this by hand. If you're taking the HiSET, you'll have a calculator for the entire test. So on the calculator, let me remind you how to reduce. you would say 6, you would hit N over D, you would put 3, and you would hit enter. Okay, can you see that? And it reduces to a whole number. So if it reduces to a whole number, that brings us to number 6. This is kind of long, so give yourself some room. If it reduces to a whole number, put it over 1. So 6 to 3 reduced to just plain old 2. So I need to put it over 1. Number 7 on your steps. Improper fractions. You're writing this down. It seems easy right here, but when you put all your stuff together and you have lots of concepts, it's nice to have some notes. Improper fractions are okay. So we leave it improper. And number 8, you must put the numbers in the correct order. And what I mean by that is, even though this problem, I did this on purpose, I listed 3 first on the problem, it did not go first on my setup. So you must read your problem. I cannot stress that enough. You got to know what order to place your numbers. Now, you can write it several ways. So I'm just going to come over here to the side and write. You can write it 2 to 1, and we say it 2 to 1. You can write it 2 with the number, with the word TO to 1, or you can write it 2:1, 2 to 1. They all read the same way, but you can write it 3 different ways. The key here is that you must put it in the correct order. So you've got to read the problem and you've got to label. Notice that the numbers do not even come into play until number 4 on your steps. So don't write the numbers first. Get yourself set up and labeled, and then they're super, super easy problems. Now watch, because a lot of times, like for this example, they kind of catch you. They gave you 3 boys and 3 girls, but what if they ask you for the ratio of boys to the entire class? Okay, well, if you're just going to be a number lifter, which is what I call it, you're going to probably do something like this, and you're going to reduce it and get 1/2. And guess what? There's going to be a choice on your multiple choice test that has 1/2 or 1 to 2 rather. So sorry. On it, and you're going to think, "Oh, goody, I got that right." But really, if you had gone through your steps and drawn your fraction line and read boys to class, so boys and class, you could put total, whatever. So I have 6 boys, but 3 is not the number for the class. How many people would be in the class if 6 are boys and 3 are girls? Well, obviously, you would have to add your 6 and 3, and then you would reduce that, and you can still reduce it on the calculator. You put your 6 over 9, remember, just hit enter, and you get 2 to 3 is how you say that. 2 to 3, 2 to 3. You can change the way you write it, but it's still the same thing. So you need to watch what I call 2-step problems, because we know that on the GED and the high set, most all of the problems are at least 2-step. So you may have to add, you may have to subtract, you may have to do something that's not just so straightforward as that simple girls to boys problem.